South American cartel supporters open fire on ICE agents in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood.
Turning back to that breaking news out of Chicago, Customs and Border Protection says agents were shot at while conducting an immigration enforcement operation earlier today. Cameras from our Fox affiliate were there in the aftermath of the shooting. That's the video currently on your screen. There have been weeks of tension in Chicago over the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration, amid a legal battle over whether the White House can send the National Guard there.
Okay, so you never thought it would happen in this country, that we would be looking at a hostile enemy force within America that is supported by people within America who are actually American citizens. This is called an insurgency. When you have people within the country who are hostile to the government, to law enforcement, and who are willing to engage in open combat with the law enforcement agencies of America for whatever reason, whether there's drug smuggling, whether it's disagreements about the political the structure of the country, whatever. But you never thought you would see the day when armed groups supporting drug cartels and South American gangs are actually now opening fire on United States Department of Homeland Security agents. I've been saying this for months. Even at No Jumper, everywhere. Brandon, you hard on the Hispanics. Brandon, why are you talking about the Hispanics? Listen, man, I don't give a damn what a Hispanic person tell you. Just like I don't give a damn what a Negro tell you. They are who they are, and they do what they do for whatever reason they do it. And they will lie to you to throw you off of their true agendas and their true motivations, but it doesn't matter once the rabbits got the gun. Once they draw down on you, once they line you up, you are going to get annihilated, and they will never show you the same sympathy, compassion, and empathy that you showed them. I look at Hispanic cartel supporters just like I look at black folks in America who celebrate gangs and degenerates. They're cowards. They're cowards. They appeal to your sense of sympathy and empathy until they get the upper hand on you, and then it's a different story. Once they got you in their sights, you're cooked. And that is what we're looking at in the United States of America. Many, many, many Hispanic people in America have positioned themselves as opposition to American law enforcement agencies, emboldened by the politicians, the corrupt politicians, who seek to hide their failure behind the tears and suffering of their constituents. Brandon Johnson only has one chance of getting reelected in Chicago, and that is if he could get every single Hispanic person in sympathetic white and black person to vote for him to be mayor in his next term. And at this point, that is what he's banking on. Because there is no way a law-abiding American citizen with their head on straight would support him in another election after the horrible performance he has put forth. The only people who will support Brandon Johnson are people who are in it for a reason other than peace and prosperity for law-abiding American citizens.
Something like this, and even something worse than this, are bound to happen because of the rhetoric. And the unfortunate thing is these ICE agents are simply doing a job that they're required to do. And these politicians are, elevating themselves, their status within the Democratic Party by essentially tacitly supporting this type of activity.
It's a wonder, frankly, that nobody was hurt. ICE agents had to call in local police. Are they allowed or are they not allowed to actually, enforce local law and maybe fire back in a situation like this?
Well, they're certainly allowed to defend themselves and also to arrest somebody doing that, because that would be a federal law violation as well. But it just gets so complicated because you have the locality, of Chicago and Illinois as a whole that are basically fighting against, the governments are fighting against the federal government at every step of the way. So they're really not getting the support that they need. And even the local police probably want to support them, but they're not getting the support from their upper level. So it really is just a bad situation. And again, these agents that are out there, these are moms moms and dads, brothers, sisters, neighbors of so many people, and they're putting their lives on the line, and they're in fact doing what they're supposed to do. And these politicians, it goes so far beyond irresponsible political rhetoric, what's been going on. And it's sad that we're going to have to be either today or down the road on one of these shows talking about some horrible tragedy that in many respects could be prevented.
Imagine doing your job as an ICE agent, black, white, blue, or green. You've been told to go into Little Village, a neighborhood that welcomed in illegal immigrants, even while the rest of Chicago was like, we don't want them here. They're straining our resources. The community leaders were very vocal, telling Chicago's government that they welcome as many illegal immigrants as they can send into the Little Village neighborhood, as long as they're Hispanic. Let's not forget that. Now, ICE agents are in Little Village looking for illegal immigrants, and they're being fired upon by masked men driving black cars. If that doesn't sound like something straight out of Narcos, I don't know what does. And understand that the Department of Homeland Security agents and the local police departments, they're basically your last line of defense before the cartel supporters, the cartel members, the Tren de Aragua gang members have access to the civilian population. And I know a lot of you guys will say, oh man, a lot of you are saying, oh man, well, we don't need ICE and the police to do anything. But I want to ask you one thing. When Tren de Aragua was taking over apartment buildings in Chicago, where was Larry Hoover and the rest of the degenerate idiots that you guys think are going to defend you in the event that something goes down? When ICE took over, when Tren de Aragua took over apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado, where were the gang members of Colorado to say, hey man, this is our turf. You can't just come over here taking over apartment buildings. They were cowards. They did nothing because that's what they are at heart. If the enemy doesn't look like them, they have no smoke for them. You listen to O Block and 600 and all these silly groups. You listen to them talk about what they'll do to someone who looks just like them over something frivolous in the name of protecting their neighborhood. But when an enemy force invades their neighborhood and starts taking over entire apartment complexes, where are these gangs that everybody holds high as the symbol of masculinity in black communities? They're nowhere to be found. And just like you saw in Chicago, these people are becoming more and more emboldened to go head up with law enforcement. These guys are shooting at the cops. How long do you think it'll take for them to get rid of O Block? About 5 minutes? About 2 days? Because they're willing to risk it all in the name of achieving their goal, which is to infiltrate America with violent cartels and South American gangs and turn America into South America. Understand something. When you see the Hispanic people get out in the streets and they start talking bad about the ICE agents and, oh, you guys are criminals and stuff, listen, man, these people are cowards. You want me to tell you why? Not the law-abiding Hispanic citizens of America. I'm talking about the ones who defend criminals.
Chaos erupting in Little Village today between Chicago police, protesters, and immigration.
The familiar sound of whistles blown by protesters following federal immigration agents through the streets of the Little Village neighborhood Saturday morning. Those agents led by their controversial commander, Gregory Bovino, the second time in 3 days that agents have targeted this heavily Hispanic community.
Mayhem over on 26th and Pulaski. An armada led by Greg Bovino was turning onto 26th Street, stopped, took a man. I was in the middle of that. We were protesting peacefully when, for no reason, the Gestapo let go of a flash band. Basically a flash grenade.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says federal agents were fired on by an unknown man in a black Jeep at 26 and Kedzie, the man driving off before he could be stopped. In a statement, a DHS official says agitators also threw a paint can and bricks at Border Patrol's vehicles. This incident is not isolated and reflects a growing and dangerous trend of violence and obstruction.
A lot of what they've said so far has been false. A federal judge, as a matter of fact, called Bovino a liar. But if there are violent incidences, that's unacceptable. We need to maintain the peace. We need to maintain the moral high ground because we do have it.
Dozens of Chicago police officers were called to the scene to control the crowd, leading to tense confrontations. A federal agent pointing a weapon at one protester, who was then pushed back by an officer. We also saw at least 2 protesters arrested by Chicago police, who tackled one of the protesters to the ground.
I want to make sure that Chicago police are doing their job, not cooperating with federal authorities. If that's the case, we will deal with it.
These same people ran away from where they're from, and many will never go back. They damn sure won't go deep enough into the country to be where the cartels are. But they are shaming you for not allowing that element to come into your country. Once the cartels get into America, the Hispanic population that supports and defends the illegals, they will quickly submit to the cartels the same way they do in their own country. We're allowing a bunch of Hispanic Americans, right? And many of them are American citizens, to force us or shame us into allowing an element into our country that they are afraid of. We're terrified of Tren de Aragua. We're terrified of the Juarez cartel. We're terrified of El Chapo. But if you keep El Chapo, the Juarez cartel, and Tren de Aragua out of America, you are a racist and a bigot. Guys, there are a lot of people in the world who don't know what's good for them. There are a lot of people in the world who do a lot of things that are bad for them. And every day they choose to do it. They know it's killing them. They know that it's having a detrimental effect on them, their health, etc. But they still do it. Which proves to you that someone can operate in a totally self-destructing way in the name of motivated by pure hyper-emotionalism.